that. Alrighty. Hi, I'm Nadia. And you know what I think is really awkward? Talking about money. But you know what's even more awkward? Asking for more money. So you know what my favorite thing to do is? Talk to people about asking for more money. Because I love talking about money, which is very convenient because I work at a place called Money by Afterpay. P.S. We're hiring, but we can talk about that at the end. So you've had a hard day at work and it feels like Groundhog Day because you've dealt with the problem 600 days in a row and you think, you know what, I might check my LinkedIn. And it looks something like this. Someone slid into your DMs and they're like, I got a job for you. And you think to yourself, you know what, screw it, I'm game, let's play. And the beautiful dance begins. You get a flat, like when I see these things and then whenever I start like the process of applying, I get like a little flutter in my stomach, something between like anxiety and excitement because I hate being uncomfortable. And but there's just something exhilarating about being uncomfortable, there's just something like, I think my brain or my stomach churns and it can't tell if it's like churning because it's excited or horrified. Like just like sheer vomit inducing anxiety, but the feelings are layered like an onion or a cabbage, if you will. Now, let's say you interview and you get yourself to the offer stage. And look, listen, you people already probably know this, but because we don't talk about money and we don't talk about salary negotiations, I don't know what you don't know and you don't know what I don't know. So we're just gonna lay it out on the table. Also, by the way, this is like a very condensed version of like a very long brain dump on how to get more money. So some of this stuff might not make as much sense without the greater context, but I don't know, keep up, we'll get there in the end. So one of the things I get asked a lot is, do you anchor or not? To anchor or not to anchor? And you'll like read all the books out there about negotiations and they'll be like, you have to anchor, and the second you anchor, you like won. And the other ones will be like, never anchor. If you say your number first, you already lost the game. But like many answers in programming is that it really depends on whether or not you want to anchor, is my opinion. So couple of things. I would say it's important to ask yourself a couple of questions going into this. A couple of things are like, well, one upside is I think in programming, especially in the places that we kind of roll around, there's like, we kind of have a brief idea of what like a mid-junior, senior staff engineer kind of gets paid. So I think that kind of works in our favor. But anyway, still, I think these are important questions to ask yourself. A couple of things. One is, I'm going to take it no matter what offer. If somebody throws like 250 at me tomorrow, yeah, I'm taking it. I don't care what it is. I'm doing it. It's 250. I'll do it for a year and I'll just like walk away with a bunch of money. The other one is like, okay, if it's not that, what is the next step down? What will it take me to move? What's my salary plus a little bit of extra salad to like make the move worthwhile? So that's the other one. But the most important one though is, why am I moving? I think if you're moving for financial reasons, my opinion is to anchor it. This is I'm taking it no matter what price. This is I'm taking it even if my life sucks price, or I'm taking it because it's just a good offer and it's a good place. Anyway, so if it's again, this is just my opinion, but yeah, if it's just for financial reasons, I'm more likely to anchor it because that's the only thing I care about. So might as well lay it out on the table sooner rather than later. Now, obviously, when you're negotiating, it also depends on what the other side is bound by, right? Some places have really firm price brackets for the level that you're interviewing for. For example, you might walk into a place and their titles are Ninja Star Hot Chicken Programmer level 17, gets paid 135 grand per annum. And that is what they've interviewed you for. And this is their offer. And you're just like, it's good, but I just want a little bit extra to make it sweet. Oh. Now, one thing you really have to keep in mind is hiring is an exercise in risk. And so that, like, whenever I'm hiring somebody, it's really a risk mitigating exercise in many ways. I want to hire, but I'm really scared. I don't know anything about this person. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what they're doing. They're telling me they're amazing, but I don't know that. So one thing that is really important for you to do is to try and help mitigate their risk for them. And one of those things you can do is make sure you get your references out, because I like to call references whenever I'm hiring. I like to ask around and see what the lay of the land is. So think about doing things that reduces their risk. That way you can kind of help them help you, if that makes sense. Now, a couple of things you can do. Besides mitigating, making it less risky for them, is you can negotiate a starting salary, like a starting bonus or a joining bonus. I've done that before, where I've been hired into a place where the price brackets were really firm, but I just wanted a little bit of an extra something just to convince me to start. And so I negotiated a starting bonus. It was small, but I was proud of it at the time. The other one is, this is also like a risk mitigating one, which is you can negotiate a salary reassessment into your contract and get that shit on paper. People, please read your contracts, get it in writing. And this is super helpful, right? Because again, if they want to hire you, but they're just not quite sure about you, you can just be like, okay, well, I'm willing to take a smaller salary for now, as long as I am, as long as there's ways to make sure that we get to the salary that we're both happy with in a couple of months' time. So that's something else. The other one is you can ask to be a contractor. This could work both ways. It could be good for you and it could be good for them. You're also mitigating your risks in these situations. And that way you can have a shorter, what's that thing called? Like a period where, anyway, you get what I mean. The other one is, besides all of that, is asking whether or not they have a salary review process. For example, if I really want a job and the money is just not quite it, but I know that they have a really good salary review process, I'm more likely to be more lenient with the money that they're going to give me, because I know I'll be able to renegotiate my salary at a time that is already been, I guess, predetermined. So that's really helpful. Now, next one is kind of controversial in my opinion, which is equity and bonuses. I know some places will use equity as a way to sell your hopes and dreams and to keep your cash offer low, but that's your risk. Like taking on equity is taking on risk for yourself, and that is a very deeply personal decision. So that's something else you can consider. But obviously equity is going to be very different everywhere you go. Xero's equity is going to be very different from Atlassian's equity, is going to be very different from Hotstar Ninja Chicken startup. So, keep that in mind. So that's that. Just whatever it is that you do, don't do what I did when I got my first development job, which is like, I sat down at this interview and they were like, so Nadia, what are your salary expectations? And I looked them square in the eye and I said, I didn't know. I didn't think I was going to get this far. But for my first job, I still got 54 grand a year. And as a junior developer, I was so happy. I was so proud of myself. But you know what? Just don't do what I did. Whatever it is, don't do that. Last but not least, I think you should practice some of these skills by applying an Afterpay and coming to work with me. You can use all of this, but on me. It's great. It's beautiful. Have a think about it. I'm hiring for my team. I'm hiring for the wider Afterpay. So yeah, let me know. You'll get to work with me. You'll get to work with DC. You'll get to work with Huli. You'll get to work with Michael. There's other people on this call, but they're leaving me, so they're dead to me. I will not name names. You know who you people are. Thank you. Any questions? Oh, the silence is very confronting. Somebody, please.
You can put on some background music.
Do you feel like with salary negotiations and most employers leaving that blank, is it like bad for the industry as a whole to kind of try to go, like if you just want your first job and you just want to get your foot in that door, to be willing to maybe state that you're willing to work for the lower end of that pricing spectrum?
Sorry, could you phrase that again for me?
Like basically, there tends to be like a range, I guess, that I've noticed. But like 50 to 70, I think, for like a junior level position.
Yep.
I'm just wondering, like in terms of for the health of like the industry, is it like a bad thing to kind of lean towards opening with the lower end just to kind of be a bit more realistic, I guess.
Is this at the offer stage or earlier on in the interview process?
I guess early on in the interview process.
I would say, sorry, there was a bunch of people that I muted, so feel free to jump in. But I would just say, it depends. But but like giving them a range is also another way of doing it. Michael, you had something to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, so when hiring people with kind of less experience, comp is not a factor. Like the organization wants to pay you fairly, and well, I don't know, the organizations I've worked at want to pay you fairly. I would be instead focusing on how you can add value and how you can sort of bridge that gap to be a useful, productive member of the team, and less about comp, because the organization will feel, well, bigger organizations and most organizations should feel weird about going, oh yes, we'll just pay you nothing. Like that's not good for you or them really in the long term.
Yeah, I feel like no organization that is gonna, you know, make it or break it on paying you $5,000 a year more or less. Like it's, and especially the person hiring you is generally not the person whose pocket the money is coming out of. So I think if they want you enough, then there should be some wiggle room on their end.
Yeah, I wouldn't say don't. I would say probably for me is like don't lowball your offer too much. Like, yeah, there's no real need for it. I personally don't think, but
I guess my fear is because you rarely often get feedback on why an application hasn't moved forward if it's like the first round. I was just worried that, you know, if I were to place it at say 70, which is like on the I guess high end, it will automatically disqualify the application for being,
right.
Yeah.
I would say, sorry, Nadia, you go.
No, sorry, real quick, DC. I was gonna say, like one, yeah, put in a range is one option, and or you can like put in a number and be like, but it's negotiable. You know, everything's negotiable.
I would not even give a number early on. Just say, if they have a range of 50 to 70, just say, I'm really excited about the company and I'm sure we can come to an agreement of something in that range.
Yeah. Tell them you're open.
Just say at this point, salary is not a major motivating factor in me switching jobs. Just really excited about what you guys are doing and how I can add value and make awesome stuff.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like I would only ever be really hard on a number if that's the only thing that mattered to me, and I knew that they could do it, which is like, yeah, it's 250 or nothing. I don't get out for bed for anything less than that. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Go, DC.
What are some other things that you can negotiate on that aren't money related?
DC, let's talk about this. I think you have some ideas as well that are really good. Mine are just like a couple of things, just like flexibility in your work. Like, yeah, for example, if you're thinking about switching jobs, and this comes back to the why you're switching jobs. Maybe you're switching jobs because your current place doesn't give you the growth you want, the flexibility you want, the culture that you want, any of these things. So you know, there's some of the other negotiables is how much time off you get, you know, or how flexible they might be with your time or your work hours, or the other what other perks are there? I can't think of anything at the moment. Oh yeah, like if they give you time off to do learning and education development items and things like that. What else do you see? I think you and I made a list, but we had forgotten what it was.
I think that covers most of them. But yeah, I think there are companies where, like, for various reasons, they can't move the money very much. So in those cases, I think if you need something else to sweeten the deal, you can start talking about, like, well, you know, maybe I could have a training budget, or maybe I can, you know, have an extra week of leave each year or something like that.
Yeah, or have extra leave to use the training budget that doesn't have to come out of my annual leave. Sorry to interrupt, DC.
That's a great point. Like, yeah, getting other things that aren't kind of directly money related, because like you say, some people are just locked into that kind of price, but you know, the training and things like that, that's tax deductible basically for them and other things.
Yeah.
And also like maybe choosing which team you work on or what technologies you work with, or you know, if there's like someone at the company who you really want to work with, like say Nadia or something, you could be like, I'll only join if you let me work on Nadia's team.
That happens. I'm just saying. The punters go wild to be on my team. Just saying. But seriously, come work for my team. Oh, we've never met before, Hooli. That's not true.
How about once you've landed the job, when should you renegotiate? And because in my experience, people can level up quite quick. So even if you do take a sort of low offer up front, there should be some kind of expectation that you can grow it.
Yeah, this is what I mean. I think sometimes if I'm willing to take like some sort of maybe not as sweet of a deal, like I said, I make it into my contract that I will need a negotiation in 3 to 6 months, especially for places that don't. I know for a fact that don't have a formal review process for their salaries. And yeah, I generally just kind of ask. I come out guns blazing in my negotiations, really. Yeah, I asked them, it's like, yeah, I would like to have my salary negotiated in 6 months. Or the other one is like, sometimes you can be a bit, be like, well, let's just say, for example, you're like, I want to negotiate in 3 months. And they're like, oh, 3 months isn't enough time for me to feel you out. You're like, 6 months, but with back pay. Your choice.
Ooh, nice move.
Got to get the moves in. I love talking about money, people. Talk to me about it.
So one thing that I didn't see on the slides was about the benefits of having a competing offer.
Oh, good point, DC. Yeah. Yeah, that was in the original significantly longer Nadia Yabbers on about money for 20 minutes.
Is this next month's extended version talk that we're going to get? I don't want to
we
spoil.
We can keep going, DC, if the people are happy to talk about this.
So it's a Patreon extra.
Like and subscribe to the channel. But yeah, having a computer.
We have to pay a $250K for it.
Yeah, 250 pay up. There's enough of you here. You can pull it together.
I mean, I think if you can have 2, 3, 4 offers at the same time, like that is the ideal situation, because you can say, honestly, I really want to come and work for you. And you have a reason to ask for more money that's not just, I'm greedy and I want more money.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to come and work for you, but Google's offering me a little bit more. If you could match that, I would definitely sign today. Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, or the other one is like, you don't have to match it because I really want to work here, but I just want you to make a competitive offer. And then it's like, just get it close enough, because yeah, maybe sometimes you genuinely do just want to take the job, but you know, you can just get a little bit of extra something.
Can I give a contrary view to all of this? Because I'm probably the world's worst negotiator. Well, maybe not the worst. I saved us like $300 on a TV the other day. But anyway, so why is it up to us? Like, I'm a software engineer. I'm about writing engineering stuff, like writing software. I'm not a negotiator. You're not paying me for that. Why are you as a company screwing me? So I've been screwed a couple of times by a company that wasn't paying me fairly. And it was kind of like, you know, recruiters won out a couple of times where they called me and say, hey, Michael, where are you? This is, I mean, we're good to go with some. I was at Bike Exchange, which is now Marketplacer. I was getting paid about 110, and I was like, yeah, that's okay. Sounds about right. Went up to 115. And then somebody rang me up and said, hey, Redbubble's hiring. How about we give you 135? And I was like, what? Like, am I being screwed so badly that I'm on 115? Somebody else will just give me 135 just like that. And it was kind of, it was to me, I got a little bit annoyed at Marketplacer at that point in time, because I said, well, why do you put it on me as a developer to go out and interview, to have competing offers, to work out what the market rate is? When you've got a good developer, you should just be looking after them. So I left. I went to Redbubble. But I mean, that then continues, does it not? Like, you know, why is it down to me to negotiate what I'm getting paid and what the market rate is is it not that I should just be good at writing software? And once I'm done, then you should give me good people to work with, interesting projects, all the rest of it, and pay me fairly.
Okay, there's a couple of things to unpack there. I have multiple things I wanted to touch on, but I have forgotten most of them. So I'll try and address all the ones that I remembered. But a couple of things are, I don't know if the companies, okay, maybe they are actively trying to sue you. I will not dispute that. However, like I said, I think it is like a risk. It's a risk management activity for them. So maybe for whatever reason, you weren't able to demonstrate that you are going to be a risk-free hire at a particular price point. So that's probably number one. The other one is, I feel like it's kind of absolving oneself of a lot of responsibility by saying it's up to the companies entirely to be fair with the deal. I don't think that's kind of true. I think it is kind of on ourselves to take care of ourselves. I mean, yeah, I think companies have responsibilities too, but it's kind of up to you to kind of, yeah, I think it's kind of up to yourself to make sure that you're getting the best deal. And the other thing is, like, sometimes like what one company value in a developer might not be something another company values in the developer. For example, maybe Marketplacer didn't value some of the other skills that you have brought to the table, while Redbubble or Zeros or Atlassians or whatever like, I think you're gonna have different value propositions for different places, and they're gonna price that differently, I suppose. So that's kind of like another aspect to it. Mm-hmm. There was a few things, but I've since forgotten. So let's keep going, and hopefully I'll remember.
I love that someone just came out with like a number and names of companies. I really wasn't expecting that to happen in this conversation. So like, props to you. I guess I would just like mirror like a little bit of what Nadia said, like around that kind of like, I sort of agree. I'm not really a very agreeing with capitalism kind of a person. One might say socialist. This is a weird way of saying that. And so I think it can be really like challenging, and I understand that perspective of like, I should just, like I should be able to trust the company that I'm employed by to pay me what I'm worth in the market. But there is like a lot of complexity around that as well. And it comes into things like Nadia was saying, negotiating other aspects, caring about different things, like one company might be willing to pay you more, but also expect a significant, significantly more from you. And some companies might just also be in less lucrative fields. I think that's another thing, to keep in mind, that not every company can like kind of translate your worth into the same amount of money that for them to, the same amount of revenue, because it's just kind of not the world that we live in. Some domains, some like types of work are just, less valued in our society. So there are all things to think about. And just like way back on the junior stuff, sorry, I'm going to keep rambling for a second. I was airplaying to the couch before, but I came over because I was really interested in this conversation.
You got hot and spicy, so you have to come in.
Oh, it's so spicy. Just to like a small like counterpoint, I'm not saying like Ian or like other juniors, on the call that you necessarily should anchor. I sort of agree with that. Like if there's already a bracket given, that you should kind of work through the process with them and not go in with like, I'm willing to take the low end of that bracket, not arguing for that. But I also think like, keep in mind that for like entry level, like no on the job experience, junior positions, companies get like hundreds of applications. So like it is quite a different market, especially with more and more boot camps, coming up. So, and your worth really does increase a lot in that first like 1 or 2 years. Yeah. So also I think it was what you said, Mark, like, like I think there is, some like a decent reason to maybe, take that lower offer if that's what's being offered to you, and then look for that raise either within the company if they're willing to give it to you, or by moving, after that like year and a half, maybe 2 years, kind of time frame, because you do that level of risk that Nadia was talking about. Like you know, that risk factor changes so much. You know, you learn so much in that first year on the job that it really does, you know, change the number.
Yeah, so if I can say one thing about it, because I just basically finished my first year of junior, and to Lauren's point, the first offer was like 60K including super. I negotiated 60K plus super, and I got a pay rise every trimester. And now I'm about to have a kid any day, and I said, listen, I'm about to have a kid any day, like this is kind of what I'm looking for. And so now I'm at 75, which is 15K over a year. So, you know, could be more, could be less, but that's like Lauren said, like, you know, I think 15K in a year is probably a good raise.
Yeah, to touch on the thing that Lauren mentioned really quickly is that different companies are just going to have different resources. Like, I mean, you see it right now, right? Like all the big tech companies are just throwing money at people. And then all of the smaller local businesses are kind of like struggling to figure out how to offer people money, how to be competitive in this market. Like I came from a very small non-for-profit before I came to Afterpay. Very different markets, and I had very different expectations going in for them. And, you know, like when I was working at a non-for-profit, it was like, yeah, that was a decision that was not a financial move, really. I mean, I did get a pay rise going into it. However, that's besides the point. The point was I had said, you know, I'm going to work for this non-for-profit in this field, and like it may or may not be the most like, you know, not the most amazing money out there, but that's just going to be a decision that I'm going to make for myself, for the things that I want in my career or wherever it might be. So it's hard for it to be like, oh, the companies are responsible for making sure we're all paid fairly, but not fairly, but, you know, it's not up to them to kind of calibrate their salaries across the industry, I guess, because also like, this is a whole other bandwagon I'm not going to get into. That was all I had.
Just a quick one. Well done, Kevin. Good luck with the kid. I think, Ian, you were partly also saying, would salary be like the difference between getting and not getting a job? And I think from what we've said, it feels like everyone's experience here, especially at a junior level, is that those salaries are pretty flexible. Don't hook yourself, but if you ask for 60 or 80, the company's not going to tell you the difference between that. As Lauren said, first, get them to be actually talking with you. So focus on standing out, on being a better developer or a more developer committed to that particular company or that meets their particular needs better.
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be the game changer. And you'd be surprised how much money companies have. And sure, you know, they can get a junior and 60,000, and it's like great. But some of those juniors, you know, they deliver what people on 110 or 120,000 are you know, doing. If it's a good junior hire, and I've seen this kind of stuff happen before at various companies. So certainly stand out, be what you think is a good developer. I mean, feel free. I think I've befriended all of you guys, the wagon people. So if you want, just ping me. I'm happy to kind of, you know, give you a few pointers this way or that way. Or potentially anyone else. I'm sure other people are more than willing to help. But yeah, you've got to be the standout developer first as a junior, and then salary, you know, if you want 70, 80, 60, I don't think it matters for most of these companies.
I think, yeah, you're right. Like the difference between the value that, you know, some juniors give and other juniors give, like some juniors will, you know, someone will be like answering the questions and helping them out. And so they'll actually make, you know, a senior be much less productive for a long time. Whereas other juniors like pick up things quickly and start adding value quickly. And so in terms of the value and productivity of the company, like the difference between junior salary is, you know, 5-10 grand here is not as significant as like how much value a good junior can really add and how much value a bad junior can take away. Sorry to put it in such rough terms.
It's okay, DC. I actually had a question though. In the example that you gave, isn't that something that the company only would really find out once you started working there?
Yeah, so this comes back to the thing that I was saying was that, you know, you want to de-risk the situation as much as you can for them. That's kind of it, right? Like maybe as a junior, you're like, you know what, let's do a 3-month contract at a whatever rate, and we'll just see how it goes. You know, that's definitely one option. So like I said, de-risk as much as you can for them. And I don't know if this is a super good tip, but like talk incessantly. Like I do so much talking in my interviews. Like I lay out everything there is to lay out for them. Like I just hand over all that information up front, you know, so that they don't have to milk you for it. And that I think helps a lot too.
I feel like I could talk about this all night.
I know, me too. I could go about it all day. Oh
Like
God.
Michael, back to your point. Sorry, tell me to shut up, people, if you're sick of hearing me. I feel like
people,
companies are not incentivized to keep people's wages at market rates just because there's like that laziness tax, like your insurance. You know, if you don't shop around for your insurance every year, like the price of your premium keeps going up. And so I think, you know, people get lazy, people get comfortable in a job, and they're less likely to move. And so for a company, you know, not all companies obviously, but some companies, especially when they're focused on whatever their core business is, it's something that they can forget to do, and there's not a lot of consequences for forgetting to do it. And yeah, I mean, as Nadia said, like people's value is contextual. Like, you know, to some company, you might be extremely valuable, your set of skills and your personality and everything. And to other company, you might not be as valuable. It all just depends on, you know, the match of the culture and your skill set to their needs. And
so I would make a terrible plumber. Like, you know what I mean? So like, they're going to value me very poorly compared to somebody else or somewhere else with a very different culture.
I'd love to see you as a plumber.
I can fix
250,000 is the asking price.
The only kind of leaks I'm fixing is memory leaks, mate.
Oh, see,
Yeah,
you'd be a
there's data
great plumber. Hey. Software engineering is basically plumbing business.
Look, you can, anyway, I'm available on the ReBAU Slack if you have any questions. If you want me to, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a professional in any of this field. You can take all this advice with a grain of salt, but I like talking about money. So you know where to find me.
Also, we're hiring.
Also, did we mention that we're hiring?
Why didn't you say anything in the hiring section?
Nadia.
Because I had worked it into my slides, Kevin, and I just wanted to dedicate, and I just had a whole thing for it, you know? I didn't want any spoilers because I thought the hiring session was.
You have to like let it like salt it at the beginning, you know, just so the people stay on just for the end. You know?
Oh no, I should have teased it. No,
you have to tease it more.
No, I reckon it was good. It was like a surprise.
No, it was. It was good.
It's like a twist.
Do you guys do a lot of pairing? Which, I mean, that'd be really good for juniors to kind of really get to know the code base and best practices. Do you guys do a lot of pairing at Afterpay?
I can't answer for the wider Afterpay because the thing about Afterpay is I think the engineering managers have a lot of say in how the teams are run. In my team, I would say, I don't think we do a lot of pairing in our teams. I don't know. How would you describe it, DC? I would say moderate amounts of pairing, moderate to small amounts of pairing.
On an as needs basis, I would say, which equates to not very much.
Not fresher amounts of pairing.
Yeah, that I can say with a guarantee.